The Elgin Area Historical Society celebrated its 50-year anniversary in 2011. To commemorate this milestone, we're going to highlight some of the ways the Historical Society helps share Elgin's rich history with the community. We're also going to show you part of the museum that the visiting public never sees. So join us as we celebrate 50 years of stewardship and the Elgin Area Historical Society. Funding for this program is made possible in part by generous donations from Woody Buick GMC in Elgin. Woody has a tremendous selection of new Buick and GMC cars, trucks, and SUVs. And Woody's Valet Service Department makes servicing your car simple and convenient. Stop by Woody Buick GMC on Chicago Street in Elgin, or look us up on the web at woodycars.com. By the Professional Building, Elgin's historic landmark in the heart of downtown, offering unique and affordable office space for businesses big and small. For more information, call Frank Halsey, 847-741-2172. The Elgin Heritage Commission, a citizens advisory board that promotes Elgin's historic preservation activity through the protection, maintenance, and preservation of the city's architectural, historic, and cultural resources. To know more, go to cityofelgin.org. And from Jim and Sarah Ellen Anderson. Since its incorporation as a not-for-profit organization in 1961, the leadership of the Historical Society has always made sharing Elgin's history with the community its top priority. This not only includes the exhibits on display at the museum, but also involves programming and special events that reach beyond the walls of the museum. One such event is the annual Cemetery Walk, held at Bluff City Cemetery on Elgin's southeast side.
Today is September 25th, 2011, and we are at the Bluff City Cemetery in Elgin, Illinois, and we are participating in the 24th Annual Cemetery Walk put on by the Elgin Area Historical Society Museum. So what we do is we select characters and we research them. So if we select the route first, because we try to do a different route each year, then we will walk around and we will look for particular characters. If we have some characters already in mind, we will go and research where they're buried at. And if it's a route that we can do, then we kind of build the route from that point on. Sometimes it only takes one character and we build that route from just that one character.
What we do is we pick out one individual and then build the route around them.
As every single light in that theater went dark and the orchestra stopped playing, pure panic ensued.
Mr. and Mrs. Gould went to Chicago to the Iroquois Theater in 1903, and the two of them perished tragically. They were among more than 600 people who died that day.
As they opened up the stage doors into the alleyway on that cold, windy December afternoon, the winds came in through the back of the theater across the stage, grabbed the fire, put them into fireballs, shot them out underneath the curtain, and incinerated anybody and everything in its path. The terror was undescribable. The noises, the screaming was deafening. People couldn't see anything. They were falling over one another, lest the light of the flames might help for just a brief second. Doors were locked. Windows were barred. There were no exit signs visible anywhere. There was no visible means of anybody fighting this fire in any way, shape, or form. Where the hell are the firemen at?
Mr. and Mrs. Gould were in church here on permanent rest, preceded by a church service and a military service of the likes that this city had never seen before and probably never will see again. May they rest in peace and the beauty that surrounds them.
The way we pick somebody out for a character is to pick out the main character and go around the cemetery. In the near vicinity, we happened to see the name of Isabella Nickel, and it said widow of a sea captain, or captain who died at sea. We found that to be intriguing, and we did a little research. Found out that she came to Elgin because her brother lived here. He ran the Ramsey Hotel. She came by ship with 5 of her children. Actually, she left from Elgin, Scotland, and came to Elgin, Illinois.
I purchased a home at 665 Lily Street. The girls were delighted. We were only 1 block from Lord's Park. I received employment from the Elgin Watch Factory and caught the trolley to go to work each day.
The presenters are all volunteers, which we are so grateful to. Many of them have been doing this for many years. We have guides that take groups of our guests around from character to character. Along the way, they will talk about different headstones, different styles, maybe a particular person, and that kind of helps fill the space too from one character to the other.
This is a 4-foot stone replica of a log cabin that was built as a memorial to Benjamin Burdett, who died in 1888 at the age of 83. It's one of the most unique monuments here in the Bluff City Cemetery. A short distance from the cabin is the tree that we have broken off at the top. That was placed in honor of Josiah Burdett, Dr. Josiah Burdett, who practiced medicine in Lake County. You can see where it also has the birth and death date of himself and his wife, Ellen. We know that it represents an oak tree because of the shelf fungus there very close to the bottom and the fern and other leaves that are there.
We're preserving the history of the people who have lived before us here. Many of these people are influential. Many of them were just ordinary people like you and I. But they all have a story to tell. So we're here to preserve their memories, their lives, and their stories.
The milestone next year will be our 25th cemetery walk. We hope to go from having 6 or 7 characters to possibly 12 to 15. The cemetery walk is always the 4th Sunday in September. So everybody come on out and see the walk for next year.
Programming and education has always been a priority of the Historical Society since its inception in 1961. Lucy Elliott is the education director at the museum.
I am the museum educator, and I've been in that position for, I think this is the 5th year. I was a preschool teacher, educator, and my primary interest was family literacy and preschool, because what I saw happen in school over the years is that we've come up with terrific curriculums for teaching children to read, but I think what they're lacking is experience. So because my background is in preschool and literacy, I really saw it as a wonderful place for connecting experience to language. So we do have programming throughout the year, and classic is Great Grandma's Kitchen, and it's really great fun. We pull out old utensils that would have been used in a very late 1800s or early 1900s kitchen, and talk about what they are, what they were used for. We actually let kids guess what some of those items are, which is kind of great fun. An example, the word churn. I use this often, but I think it's a good one. It's an easy word to sound out, and kids can read it easily. But if they don't know what a churn is, we made butter yesterday, by the way. If they don't understand that concept, then to read the idea of a churning stomach or churning waters is absolutely meaningless to them, really. One of the programs in place when I came here was Watch Your Pocket. It's a terrific little program, and again, it inspired me to do more. We have, in that case, a classroom might come in and a group will go into the watch factory room with the supervisor of the factory and learn about the rules of the factory and that kind of thing. And then they rove from table to table, and those tables each represent departments of the watch factory. So they would go from the plate room to the finishing room to, throughout the factory. And it's kind of nifty, and they get the idea of mass production and assembly line, and we talk all those concepts. Another program, the Hiawatha program, it centers around the Hiawatha exhibit that's downstairs in the museum. Parlaska, the children learn about his appreciation for the Native American, his desire really to share that with young people. and that kind of thing. And I try to make a little more meaningful for the kids, try to attach that to their understanding of how we're talking about the environment with reducing and reusing, recycling, and that kind of thing. And that the Native Americans were really all about that long ago. It's not something we came up with. Cobblestones to cupolas, that's another program. We talk about the architectural styles and features, but again, Elgin specific. Landmarks is a big piece of that. We do a diorama wherein the kids identify a photo of a landmark that they know or want to know, and then it's their job to build that landmark out of recycled materials like milk cartons and toilet paper tubes and you name it, and they end up then constructing those, and together we build Elgin. Once the buildings are finished, as we set them up, we try to do it in a time frame, starting with a Gifford's cabin and a cobblestone home and whatever, so they have a feeling not only of what came first for need, but also because of what materials were accessible at the time. They used timbers for the cabins and cobblestones and so on and so forth. So it's really great fun. It's a favorite project. What I've seen and I realize happens is the community awareness of these young kids and or their families that are associated with it is very heightened. That was a bit of a surprise to me, and now I realize that it's the real value above all.
Thousands of people visit the Historical Society Museum each year to enjoy the exhibits on display, but the third floor has always been off limits to the public until now.
Sometimes the most interesting part about a museum is the part that the public doesn't get to see. So come on in, I want to show you some of the storage areas for things that are in the Historical Society's collection. Come on in. Virtually the entire collection of the museum has been donated to the Historical Society by people in the Elgin community. They give it to us as stewards of this wonderful treasure trove of Elgin's past. This is our three-dimensional objects room. Come on down here and I'll show you an example of what I mean. These are some of the artifacts left over from Elgin's history in the dairy industry. Here we have hundreds and hundreds of bottles from the dozens and dozens of dairy companies that once were part of our economic and social fabric here. All the way down to these cute little cream bottles. Remember these from long ago, when the milkman would deliver milk to an insulated metal box that would be on people's doorsteps. And then, of course, our long history with the Borden's Company. Three-dimensional objects can be things as ephemeral as just advertising items from local companies. Such as these. Or artifacts from industries that were once here. Did you know Elgin once was the home of a silo manufacturer? And of course, tools that were used in the trades. Coffee mills from the Elgin Foundry. The objects we're most interested in are those that are directly related to Elgin and Elgin's story. But we also have a fine collection of objects related to everyday life in the past. Here's some interesting ones. How about this? An early vacuum cleaner. I think what worked by some sort of pumping action. That's for the lady of the house. We also have objects that are related to Elgin's recreational life. Croquet balls, ice skates. People did ice skate on Lord's Park, and Lord's Park was the site of a very well-known ice skating tournament that was held every year here. Now, down this aisle, we have other aspects of everyday life, such as these doctor's bags. Do you remember when doctors made house calls? Do you remember when the pharmacy came to your house? Take a look at some of these objects. The medicine bag, complete with the traveling collection of drugs. Of course, Elgin was a rural supply center, and a farming community surrounded it. And how about one of these? Used for carrying water. It would be suspended, the buckets would be suspended from these holes, and then you'd carry this on your shoulders like that. How about this? There's a shovel for you. Anyway, these things could end up being thrown away, lost, or left out in the farm, out in the field to rot away. But they really tell a story to children that have never seen a wooden shovel. So that's why it's important to have them where they could be properly cared, interpreted, put on display for people. Long before there were radio, people needed to entertain themselves at home. We have a little collection of musical instruments from the 19th century. One of our most valued musical instrument is this drum in the Elgin National Watch Factory Military Band, a really prized artifact for our collection. The band toured the country promoting Elgin watches at a time when band concerts were a big form of entertainment for the average citizen. The museum's collection includes a large selection of textiles. Textiles are objects such as uniforms such as these, military uniforms, flags, ribbons, pendants, dresses, all manner of things that are done on textiles. These boxes contain hundreds and hundreds of items of fancy clothing, of everyday clothing, of ribbons, of uniforms, of pendants, dresses worn at important events. They reflect the style of both ordinary and high style of earlier eras in Elgin. One of the great treasures of the museum is this fantastic collection of images and photographs from times gone by. We have a number of objects like these, which have already been framed and are on display. Here's downtown Elgin, looking down Chicago Street to the east and Grove Avenue to the south. Probably about 1904 or so. Here's an interesting example of a framed document. This is the sons of Union veterans of the Civil War from their encampment in 1921. These are the sons of the veterans. This room contains both circuit court documents and negatives from the Courier News. Starting in about 1963 and going up to about 1986, we have almost every negative of every image that was photographed by Courier News staff and used in the papers. Over 100,000 negatives here. And they would be all sorted into individual files, all numbered and indexed, and it would be possible to go in here and then retrieve a picture from some point in the past and make a very good quality reproduction. One of our great treasure troves of documents are these probate records from the Circuit Court's office. These are for Elgin Township probate records prior to about 1970s or so. And these are wonderful for doing family genealogy and for house research, because it gives you a good idea of the people that live there, some of the family connections, sometimes information about the homes if they went into probate, and little artifacts about day-to-day life of Elgin in the whatever year. One of the great assets that we have is a collection from photographers that once worked in Elgin. Elmer Gillick, a photographer and architect, John Adams, capturing scenes of everyday life, in this case, speed skating on the Lord's Park lagoons, or the press rooms of the Courier News. We have tens of thousands of images of Elgin and Elgin citizens. All these photos have been archived and indexed and are available for reproduction, covering a whole wide range of subjects and topics in the city. These photos are a wonderful asset if you're doing home restoration. It gives you a good idea of what was once originally there and a lot of detail on these images. In this room we have business records from Elgin industries gone by. Hundreds and hundreds of documents related to early industries. We have one of our prizes is some of the original minutes from the Elgin National Watch Company. We have a great collection of early atlases and maps of the city. Our collection of city directories is a wealth of information These are great when you're doing histories on homes. We go all the way back to the 1860s. I'm with Museum Director Elizabeth Marston, one of our great assets to the museum. And we're going to talk a little bit about this wonderful drum as the first of several artifacts. So tell me, where did this come from?
This is a 36th Regiment Civil War drum, and it was donated by the Castle family back probably in the 1970s. One of their family members was Charles Stiles, and he was a drummer boy, and he went to the Civil War when he was 16, and he carried this drum. So you can see we've had it on exhibit for a long time, but it is in need of conservation, and so we have it ready to go to a conservator who will help preserve all of the original paint that is still left on the drum.
Okay, earlier when we were in the three-dimensional objects room, we were walking down the aisles, and I was saying that our collection includes things as diverse as just advertising memorabilia, and such as this ashtray and these matches, and stuff from the watch company. All this is from the watch company in one aspect or another. Here's a case that Lord Elgin watches were sold in, with the watch in it, by the way. Perfect for your husband for Christmas present. So, yeah. But these are interesting. What's the story with these badges and pictures?
Well, these were, they're plant IDs that were produced primarily during World War II.
For plant security?
Yes, for the Elgin Watch Company. And, they had they added on a lot of more people to work at the factory, and they even started Plant 2, which was down on Bluff City Boulevard.
And the building is still there, in fact.
And the building is still there. So they had so many new people that they started to do this security.
Wouldn't want
thing.
Any saboteurs putting the watch company out of
exactly,
business.
and they were doing all war work.
And actually, they were doing work that had strategic importance because, the timing devices that were used in ships and some of the artillery and anti-aircraft shells. So.
Right.
And what's this little object? It looks like a rubber stamp of some sort.
Right, a rubber stamp.
From?
It says Niels Elgin.
Yeah, Niels of Elgin. Niels was a store in downtown Elgin.
A paint store, decorating store, right?
Very good. And then my eye is drawn to these. Are these the keys to the kingdom down at the watch factory, or just what here?
These are the center gate keys, yeah.
The center gate keys.
Right. These were to open the big gates at the front. And it even says, can you see that? Center Gate ENWC Company.
A lot of people collect spoons, and I think we have a couple of pieces of silverware here. This one's obviously a collectible object. And what's that on there?
Can you see that? That's the Elgin National Watch Factory. It's a souvenir spoon.
And then what's this from the company cafeteria? It's just a regular fork with an Elgin trade name on it?
Yes, it's from, you can see the Elgin trade name and the stars by it, timed by the stars, and this was in the dining room. There was an executive dining room and a regular worker dining room.
And this you could buy, and this you took out in your lunchbox, I imagine.
That's right.
Earlier, when we were in the textile room, we were talking about some of the objects that are in there, including uniforms. And here's a great example from one of our local veterans. What can you tell me about this?
This is the World War I uniform of Lyle Ziegler, who was the owner of Ace Hardware in Elgin. And you see we've packed all of this up in an acid-free box with acid-free tissue. And we have his jacket with his pins still there, U.S., and his rank. And then we also have all of the accoutrement that go with it, including...
Here, let's take this out. His leggings.
The leggings and the heavy, heavy wool socks, all military issue.
Size 12, I presume.
And then a dress jacket. And we keep this, we have had this on exhibit before when we talk about World War I. And it's, it really, I think the power of the object helps people become... make this more meaningful and make abstract history of World War I that happened 100 years ago more immediate, especially if you see a picture of Lyle in his uniform and then understand that he worked at the hardware store the rest of his life and made a difference for people in Elgin.
I love these boots. Show that there was some marching done in these, I bet. So, and do you know where Lyle served?
He served in England and France.
Okay.
And came back. We have his Bible that he carried with him through the war and made it home again.
So a good sample of first-person history, World War I is, like you say, over almost a century ago it began, and it really shaped the world for the first half of the 20th century at any rate. Here's a piece of history that a lot of Elgin women can relate to.
Barb Harwood just donated this, and we don't have any of this particular year. We do have some other gym suits. They don't make the kids wear these so much anymore.
Very stylish. So I remember these, and what was it like to go to gym dressed like that? Was it embarrassing, or was it?
Well, everybody's wearing the same
comfortable?
thing. It doesn't matter. And they would have different colors for different years. This was purchased at Keeney's Sporting Goods, downtown Elgin. And Barb saw our exhibit on Keeney's, and so she wanted to donate this because she thought that had relevance to Elgin history.
And it sure does. I bet you a lot of people have wonderful memories when they see that.
That's right.
So when an object like that, or like Mr. Ziegler's uniform comes in that's a textile, what do we have to do to make sure that it's not ruined by either soil or insects or things of that sort?
Well, when somebody donates an item to the museum, the collections committee meets once a month to review all of the donations, and we get actually hundreds of items that are donated every year. So the collections committee has to be very careful about what to take, and everything that we take tells a story about Elgin. So this item is something that we didn't have in the collection. It was purchased at a local store and worn by a local student. So it was perfect for the museum's collections to tell a story. And then when we get it, we have a whole volunteer crew that starts by giving it an accession number with the donor and the year that it was donated. And then they describe it and give us the measurements, the color, any condition problems that it might have. And then it's numbered, it's physically numbered, as you can see here. And then from there it either goes into storage to wait for an exhibit opportunity, or it goes right to exhibit. And this one's going right down to exhibit.
Well, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your work day to tell us a little bit about this. And if people have items they want to donate to the museum, how do they get a hold of us?
They can either call us at 847-742-4248 or go to our website. You can Google Elgin History Museum and you'll find us there.
Thank you very much. It's really been fun.
Thanks, Phil.
As a non-for-profit organization, the Elgin Area Historical Society relies on financial support from the community. Your tax-deductible donation is needed to operate the museum and fund our community programming, so please give if you can. The Historical Society also relies on volunteers from the community. George Rowe is the president of the board.
As a nonprofit organization in Elgin, we're always looking for volunteers. There's many ways you can get involved. You can be a docent, and you can volunteer 1 or 2 days a week, 1 or 2 days a month. Maybe you just like to paint or fix up old houses, and we could use your building skills. Maybe you have a collection that you would like to show at the museum. We've had many members do that in the past, where they bring in their private collection and get that story out to the public, and this would be a great way to present something like that. So there's many, many different ways that we can incorporate your skills. The Elgin Area Historical Society Museum is at 360 Park. We're right on the grounds of the Academy. We are the building under the cupola.
There are other ways you can support the museum. Simply stop by and look around. Admission is only $3 for adults and $1 for kids. While you're here, do a little shopping at the store. We have trinkets, photos, books, videos, and other Elgin collectibles. The museum also offers room rentals for meetings and events. If you're looking to license or own historical photos of Elgin, or photos from our Courier News archive, you can purchase these for your business or private use. And if you're in need of research services, our experienced staff can help you access our extensive archive of Elgin-specific historical documents. For more information, visit elginhistory.org or stop by the museum on Park Street and say hi. Thank you for your support.